the name of your course is Governance Management of Natural Resources. So I thought that what is governance, that should also be discussed. And I read a book long back when I was preparing for my MA in JNU, From Government to Governance. This is a small book published by National Book Trust, which is very close to your university. This book was written by JNU Professor Kuldeep Mathur, and I remember it that this book is very easy to understand. It is written in very lucid language. So I thought that at least introduction of this book should be shared with you, so that you feel confident what is this governance. Maybe that in your interview or if you go somewhere, people will ask that, okay, you have studied a full paper, Governance Management of Natural Resources. What do you mean by governance? And you may have difficulty in explaining them, so they would think, seniors would think that you were not serious. So keeping in mind these aspects, I went to JNU, I found the book and I shared with you. And this is my request, please read it. All those readings which I am sharing with you, these are very, very important readings. And I do not share any material which is not very relevant, which is not very essential. So please take it seriously. Thank you. So, governance. What is this governance? In the previous class, we had already touched, and I am not going to say anything new. But here we will be talking about governance in some detail. So, the first thing, the governance which I am going to talk about, or the definition which we will get it, is basically based on Professor Kuldeep Mathur book, From Government to Governance, published by NBT 2008. This is clear. So he is saying, Professor Mathur is saying, that since 1980s and 1990s, this word governance has become very popular. It has become a buzzword, okay, very popular. So everybody is talking about governance, 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 governance. So what is this governance? So Mathur is saying that the first thing to understand governance is not to say government. Just remember it. From government to governance. It means that instead of the term government, now governance is more frequently used. Okay. So what does it mean? Governance. So Professor Mathur is saying that the first thing you have to keep in mind when the term governance comes to your mind is to look at a state. So you can ask me, what is a state? So a state is not like tree, or a state is not like a building that I can take you there and I can say, look at a state. You cannot see it like this. A state is more like a concept. It is everywhere, but it is not so visible. So a state, if you ask me in a very simple language, when you go to, let's say, playground, and when it is evening, when police comes to that place and says, okay, it's evening time, go back. So the police is a state. The police is a representative of a state. In the morning, and when your principal says something, principal is the representative of a state. When in the evening you go somewhere to catch train, the train is being run, the train is being managed it is managed and run by a state. If you have fight with anybody, you go to court and judge gives you some judgment. Judge is representative of a state. So if people in the parliament make laws and you like it or dislike it, those people sitting in the parliament, they are representative of a state. So the state is visible everywhere, but it is not very concrete where I can take you and I can ask you, touch, this is a state. So education, health, police, army, judiciary, parliament, forest department, these are all representatives, manifestations, extension of a state. I will give you another example. Have you seen the seal of Indian government? What is the seal of Indian government? Emblem. So wherever you will see that seal, you must keep in mind that here is the state. You on your passport, that seal is there. So basically, Kuldeep Mathur is saying that it is reducing the role of the state. So you will be surprised to know what is this reducing the role of the state. Governance is all about reducing the role of the state. So you have to go back to the period before 1990s. India got independence in 1947, and after independence there was a big debate which model of development should the free India pursue. Somewhere in favor of socialist model, somewhere for the communist model, somewhere for the Gandhian model, but finally the model which India followed is known as Nehruvian model, socialist model, mixed economy. So what is the socialist model, Nehruvian model, mixed economy, planned economy? So basically, Nehru believed that a state has to play very important role in planning, in making policies, in elevating poverty, in developing this country. So the state was very central. When I am talking about state, bureaucracy is also part of the state. IAS officer, many of you might be preparing for Indian administrative examination, or maybe Indian police examination, or foreign service examinations. So the basically bureaucracy is also part of the state. Okay. So the Nehru believed that a state has to play a big role. It will plan economy, it will have a strong bureaucracy, it will educate people, it will elevate poverty, and then the planning commission office were also set up. The economy will be planned. Okay. And Nehru was very much influenced by socialist economy. Yes, socialist thinking. You understand what is socialist, what is socialism? At least there are two models as far as the economy is concerned. One is called capitalist liberal democracy model, and another is socialist model. The socialist model believes that a state has major role to play. A state must provide free education, free health to people so that the poor people could rise. Market is looked at negatively. If market is to be allowed, it must be brought under control, and the public sectors should have more and bigger role. That is socialist economy, and Nehru was very much influenced by that. Indian economy, Indian model is also called mixed economy. Mixed economy in a sense that it was not truly socialist. Okay, some elements of capitalist economy were also taken. For example, private players were also allowed to operate. Private property was not done away with. In a communist country, private property is not allowed. Okay, everything is nationalized. Everything is owned by the state. So in India, when Nehru came to power, he largely took elements from the socialist model, but he also had elements from the capitalist model also. That is why his model is also known as socialist economy, Nehruvian economy, or mixed economy. So the mixed economy socialist model had important and major and central role of the state in planning everything. A state will open a school, a state will open hospitals, the railway will be managed by the state, the army will be managed by the state, everything will be managed by the state. So in 1960s, 70s and 80s, these were the periods when economists started critiquing the model, the Indian model, that it is not leading to growth, it is not yielding result, there is something wrong, there is something wrong. So by 1980s, there were many reasons when the Nehruvian model was severely critiqued, and at international level also, the socialist bloc led by USSR, it declined in 1990. So the currency, the buzzword at international level was free market, capitalist development. Okay. So these factors also influenced Indian economy also, and by 1990 Indian economy opened up. It accepted globalization, it accepted privatization, it accepted liberalization, and by that time the word governance, not government, became very popular. So now you could understand that by 1990, when the governance was accepted, when the governance became popular, the first thing that was said is to reduce the role of the state. When I say reduce the role of the state, that doesn't mean that a state has no role. Kick a state out. Nobody is saying like that. But a state is no longer Dada. A state is no longer Dada. Dada means no longer the supreme authority, the supreme power. Never think that a state has disappeared or a state has no role. But as far as economy, planning, development is concerned, a state is no longer the sole authority. So the first point you have to keep in mind when the term governance comes to your mind, that those who support governance model, they argue. What they argue? That a state is a major actor. A state is not going away anywhere. Nobody is saying that a state should be finished. But the major argument is that its role should be reduced. Yes, you are asking.
Sir, if state has the absolute power or the control, then it's the state which is accountable or responsible for what happens within its domain.
Okay.
But in the governance model, does it also talk about who's accountable to as per the effects or the results of governance?
Yes. So instead of a state as the sole and major, the only authority, the governance model would say a state market and NGO, means a state market people, they are all important actors.
So they are equally accountable for what happens.
They, whatever a state is planning, that should also take into account the interest and of the market and NGOs and people also. You cannot make laws and you can say, oh, this will happen. There are people outside who will say, okay, what about my concern? So basically the governance model is saying that a state must look into the concerns of the market, the NGOs and the people. So basically, instead of a state being the sole authority, now there are multiple players. So there will be some negotiation. Nobody is saying that a state has gone away. Even your Delhi police, traffic, hospital, railway, everything is today is being managed by a state only. You elect government. The government and a state is running this country. So nobody is saying that a state has gone away. What has happened? The role has been redefined. The earlier you could understand, suppose there is a film, there is only one single hero. Now there are 3 heroes or 4 heroes. So the focus is not primarily on a state. There are also other actors who have entered. And when they enter, they bring about some concern. You understand? They bring about some concern. And when market comes, when NGOs come, when civil society comes, what will happen? That their concerns will also be included. It's not that one leader sitting somewhere will make the plan, okay, and impose it on people. Now the governance model is saying, look at their concern also. So the role of the state is reduced, okay.
So basically by governance we mean having a democratic society itself, right?
We'll come back. Yes, you are right. And you should also keep in mind that there are many people who are very critical of governance model also. So maybe the supporter of governance model will talk like you, that it is more about participation, it more about strengthening democracy. But those who are opponents of governance model, they will say something else also. So we'll come back. So one thing you have to keep in mind, that concepts, ideas are never unchallenged. What is presented to you as good may be opposed by so many people also. So there is always contestation. The second point is, when the role of the state is reduced, the second point you have to keep in mind, promote the role of the market. And when I am saying promote the role of the market, it doesn't mean that market has become supreme and nobody will question it. It's not like that. Markets say, which was earlier, let's say before 1990s, globalization, liberalization, privatization was accepted in India around 1990s. So before 1990s, you have to keep in mind, suppose this is 1990 and this period is before 1990, 80s, 70s, 60s, and this is after 1990s, 1990s, 2000, 2010, 2020. So before 1990, the role of the state was more. The say of the market was less. But what is happening with the governance model? State remains. Earlier market was also there, state was also there. But now the role of the state is less, is reduced. There is a thinning, you understand? Thinning, becoming thin, thinning of the state, thinning of the bureaucracy. And the power, the say of the market is increasing. Yes.
So what led to this change of reducing role of state?
Yes.
So what made this change?
What makes the change? We will come back. What makes the rule? Because you have to keep in mind how the economists think about development. For example, there are 2 groups of economists, very simply put. One group of economists is known as socialist leftist economist. Okay, suppose you are socialist and leftist economy. So in their thinking, in your thinking, market is looked at negatively. That market will come, it will only work for the profit, okay? And when everything is done for the profit, then the poor people will be harmed. So in the leftist, in the socialist thinking, what is seen as good, that government makes good policies for people, there should be the free education, there should be less and less role for the private players, because if the private players will come, then what will happen? That the poor people will not be able to get facilities. For example, you take Sarkari hospital, government hospital and private hospital.
Right.
So many people who have more money, okay, so they will say that the government hospital is very good, there is no such fight over getting seat or maybe bed and something, I pay and I get it, okay. But now those who belong to leftist group, they will say, but who can afford? Who can afford? On the other hand, those who believe in capitalism, those who believe in capitalist economy, they argue that a state should have less role. They look at a state as necessary evil. Necessary evil. We need it. We cannot do away with it. But it is like, it is necessary evil. Like a, what should I say, antibiotic tablet. Okay? We need to take it because fever will not go away. Okay, some infection is there. But it is also harming us. So it is something like necessary evil. I am taking it, but I am not comfortable with it. So if you read economics thought, I don't know how many things I will touch. So the earlier thinkers in 18th century, 19th century, they looked at a state very negatively. And they said that less estate, minimal estate, the role of a state should be limited. And those who are doing business, those who are doing trade, they should be given free hand. If they are given free hand, then trade will grow, then development will happen, prosperity will happen, and don't tax rich more. Because if you are taxing rich more and more, then what are you doing? You are discouraging rich to generate growth. On the other hand, those who belong to marginalized group, let's say poor, Dalits, Adivasis, leftists, minorities, they will argue, no, a state is very important. We need a state. A state must tax rich people, okay? Because the poor people would argue that we are also paying taxes. Don't think that we do not pay. There are two kinds of taxes, direct taxes and indirect taxes. So the poor people may not be paying direct taxes, but they are paying indirect taxes. So the poor people will say, don't think that we do not pay taxes. Even in economy, we work as laborers, as workers. If you do not work, then what will happen? Economy will not grow. So our say should also be there. So there is always fight between two groups. The poor would like a state to play a major role. The poor would like that a state should make more social welfare policies, more government schools should be open, okay? But the rich people have some different concern. For example, the poor would ask, if you go to the slum area, they are not much concerned about security. What they are concerned about it? Water, electricity, legalization of their colonies. But if you go to rich area, security. So there are two different concerns. So those who are supporters of governance model, they basically believe that let's businessmen be allowed to do their business. A state should not have major say, because if you have major say, then you are discouraging them. So basically their way of thinking is linked to the classical economists of the earlier time, who believe that a state is necessarily evil, okay? The market, the civil society should be given free hand, okay? Do not put so much brake on them. On the other hand, the socialist thinker will believe that if you leave market uncontrolled, okay, so then the poor people will suffer. So there is always this fight between two groups of the people. You understand? How you look at the issues, how you vote, it all depends on the class to which you belong. For example, in political science, it has been shown that rich people vote less. Rich people do not often go to vote, but the poor people, Dalits, Adivasi, minorities, OBCs, they go to vote in large number. Why they go to vote? You understand? Because somehow they look at politics, politician, state as someone who could listen to their voice. On the other hand, if you meet rich people, they will say, politics बहुत गंदे लोगों का खेल है ना? It's a very dirty thing. But one thing you have to keep in mind, that even businessmen, even the rich people, cannot do anything without the support of the politician, without the support of the state. But they will pretend that politics is very bad. And any policies which are made for the poor people, let's say, it will be criticized. Oh, economy will be in crisis. Why this? Have you heard the scheme Manrega, where the workers have to give some day of the employment. You know what has happened recently? Many economists have raised this point that the government is increasingly cutting on the budget, okay, reducing the budget for the Manrega employees. Recently what has happened, that the Manrega Mazdoor, when he is going to work, he has to mark his attendance online by uploading his picture, okay, 2 times in a day or something like that, and his account, bank account, needs to be linked to Aadhaar or something. It's not very usual bank account. You have to have, I'm forgetting the technical, no, not Jan Dhan account. I wrote one story on this also. Their account has to be linked with something Aadhaar or something like that, okay. So not every Mazdoor has that account. So by putting that condition, what you are trying to do, you are discouraging people from going to Manrega scheme. You understand my point?
Yes.
Because what is happening, that many times, suppose I am a worker and I go and work and I try to upload my picture, then internet is not working, somehow my attendance is not marked and I don't get money. So what will happen tomorrow if you go and ask, Manrega चलेंगे काम करने? No, I will not go there because I don't get money, बहुत लफड़ा है, होता है ना. So somehow what happens, that the poor people is registering that this is very unfair. We do not have even money to eat bread, and how will we have mobile phone, है ना, and internet connection. On the other hand, those who are rich, they are saying, okay, you don't work and you get money. You understand? So why don't you give your attendance? It means that you are not working. You understand? So there is always a conflict. One thing in social science you have to keep in mind, that people are not angels. They are not farishta. We have to keep in mind conflicts, and conflicts cannot be brushed aside. It cannot be put under the carpet. It cannot be put under the carpet. So it should be discussed. There are multiple angles, and your paper, this natural resources and environment, there are thousands of conflictual issues. It's not so simple. It's not so simple. You exploit natural resources, okay, and what happens, that the pollutants are dumped at night in river and somewhere else. Next day, the area which is not in your region, that gets polluted. People start affecting there, here also and there also. So there is no role of those people who got affected. You understand? The far away areas. So they will protest, but you will not listen to it. So there are multiple dimensions. This climate change, ecology, natural resources, they are local issues, they are regional issues, they are national issues, they are international issues, they are global issues, and there are many things. You don't know, if you destroy, let's say, environment, we do not know how far it is going to harm other planet also. I don't know. So things are very conflictual. Don't think that, oh, सब कुछ अच्छा होता है. ऐसा अच्छा नहीं होता है सब कुछ अच्छा. If you know, if you critique, if you are critical, then what will happen? You will raise the question. And if people are aware about their rights, if people are questioning, then even those who are making wrong policies, they will be alert. Okay, अब जनता है, सब जानती है. Okay, people know very much. Okay, so we have to be bit alert also. So the point I was talking about that those people who are talking about governance model, don't think that they are farishta. They have come from some different land and they have come here to do great thing. When they are talking about this model, they have some vested interest in their mind also. And when they are critiquing the earlier Nehruvian model, it is going to harm some other interest also. So the clash of interests are always there. So as a student, you are here in the class, and what is my role? My role is to tell you all sides of the jhagada. है ना? All sides of fighting, okay? All sides of the dispute, so that when tomorrow you go to make policies, you are not so innocent. You don't pretend or you don't behave like an innocent person, okay? You look into every aspect. I'll give you one example. In Adivasi areas, what is happening? That government is going and suddenly some areas are being declared as forest area, okay? Tiger, what is called? Tiger protection area, something like that. Reserve area. And if you go to local people and if you ask, they would say, हमने tiger को कभी नहीं देखा. We have never seen tiger ever. Okay. But suddenly government is saying that this is tiger reserve area. Okay. So see, you are Adivasi. Suppose you are Adivasi. You go to those area. You take some, let's say, products from the jungle. Okay, some tree, some fruits, maybe some honey. And tomorrow, this area will be called wildlife area, protected area, forest area. Tomorrow, if you go there to take some, what should I say, some wood and something, and if you take your cattle there, I am a police wala, I'll say, no, you cannot go there. Bhago yahan se. Go away. Okay. So now the forest reserve area is celebrated. Okay, it is very good. Tiger will be protected. Our ecology will be what should I say? It will be saved. On the other hand, if it is seen from, let's say, Adivasi point of view, you are negatively affecting their livelihood. You understand? So things are not so simple. Things are not so simple. Things are very complex, and a teacher, my role and the role of this paper is, you are mostly student of science. I am a student of social sciences. My job is to basically bring to you different conflicts, different jhagada, different disputes, so that you are in a better situation. Suppose when you are let's say you are in court, why judge listen to both the sides or all the sides? Because before giving any judgment, you get to know everything. Even if somebody has done murder, you cannot put him in jail and give him punishment unless you give him all the opportunity to express himself or herself. So similarly, you said this point, why governance model? Because the governance model, I'll come back to this point, it is basically concerned about promoting market. So when it supports promotion of market, it has to reduce the role of the state also. So this is so simple. Now, encouraging people's participation. The governance model, yes, you are saying something.
No, sir, I'm just saying that it's very dynamic the way things are.
Yes, it is very dynamic because interests are also not the same. Interests are not the same. So basically, governance model justifies its policy by saying we are encouraging people's participations. How? Because earlier bureaucrats were making the policies, some netas were making the policies, some ministers were making the policy. Here what is happening? More people are participating. NGOs, you understand what is the full form of NGO? Non-governmental organizations. So there are many non-government organizations, they are making policies, they are holding seminars, they are holding demonstrations. No, we want this, okay. Suppose there are several research institutes also, you will find if government is trying to make some policy, some bill, you will find so many articles in the newspaper. So the people, these are all examples of the people's participation. Don't think that people's participation means only that when people reach Ramlila Maidan. Okay. When people reach Ramlila Maidan, this is also people's participation, very important participation. But when you speak, when you write, when you express yourself, even when you write on social media, this policy I like or this policy I don't like, this is also your participation. So basically the governance model is saying people's participation. We are encouraging people's participation, and when it is saying that we are for people's participation, basically it is critiquing the earlier model, that when there was only centralized state, when the state was the only authority, then people's participation was less. The way governance model is talking about, it may not be accepted by those who are from government model. You understand? Right. Okay. So the next point is the state was earlier seen as the central authority for development. Earlier, a state was seen as the central authority. It will have planning. You know, first year planning, first 5-year planning, second 5-year planning, third 5-year planning, and this question is also was, what was the focus of first year planning? sometime industries was more focused, industrialization, then in another planning agriculture was given. So these are all, these plannings are also being studied by the students of economics also. And now this current government, it has done away with the planning commission. It is talking about Niti Aayog. And what is this Niti Aayog? And why not planning commission? Because planning commission and planned economy is the legacy of socialist economy. And the current regime which is in power, it is not very much, what? No, it is not very socialist, yes, it is not very, its ideology is something else, okay? It's not based on socialist model, okay? The central role of the state for the development is questioned, but I am not saying that a state has gone away or a state has no role. So it has not gone away, but the role of the state is questioned, okay? The dadagiri is questioned, okay? So you are no longer the sole authority. And it is, this governance model is linked to World Bank, okay? So you can Google it, what is World Bank, okay? So the World Bank is an organization which basically deals with finance, debt, okay, planning, development, okay? So this is very powerful organization, World Bank. So the World Bank is also the supporter of governance model. So you could also ask that governance model was promoted by the World Bank. It is World Bank agenda, okay? And it is neoliberal policy. It is based on neoliberal policy. You understand what is the neoliberalism means? You might have leftist people always talk about neoliberalism. Again, you know it very well. I am just reminding you. I have told you that the economists Adam Smith, Ricardo, those were called classical economists. So they were the founding fathers of capitalist thought, okay? So they believed that market should have more role, a state should have less role, okay? Trade is very good, a specialization is very good. So they were basically supporting trade, free trade, private property, less role of the state, okay? International trade, specialization. These were their basic thinking, and they argued that if more trade will happen, then prosperity will come, okay? But later this model was critiqued by the socialists, by the Marxists. No, it is leading to poverty, okay? Poor people are being exploited. For example, you have set up industry, you have earned profit, but it has resulted in slums also. If you read novels of Charles Dickens, you will see how poverty is there, how poor people are living. You might have seen Charlie Chaplin's, if you see some of the movies of the Charlie Chaplin, you will see poverty. Or maybe movies of Amitabh Bachchan of 1960s and 1970s. Angry young man, है ना? मजदूर का बेटा हूँ, कूली हूँ, ऐसा होता है ना आपको? तो basically these films are coming from socialist thinking. Okay, कि rich people जो है ना, rich people exploit the resources, they create more poverty, they become rich, the rich are becoming richer, the poor are becoming poorer. So those thinkers who believed in socialist model, okay, those believed in Marxism, their ideas were taken up by people in several countries, and they brought about revolution in Russia, in China, in many other countries. And when revolution took place, then workers' government came, okay? Workers' government came. So those socialist communists, they believed that private property is bad, okay? Market is not good for the poor people, okay? Capitalism is not good. So in the 20th century, there were two models, capitalist model and socialist model. And after 1945, after the end of the Second World War, even the capitalist camp came to realize that if you continue with capitalist model without any check, then revolution will happen. You understand? We have to give some rights to poor people also. That is why the socialists, that is why Nehru also accepted socialism. But after 1970s or 80s, again, the supporters of the earlier capitalist philosopher Adam Smith, Ricardo, they become very prominent, okay? And they said that socialism will ruin the economy. socialism is a road to serfdom. So basically what is happening, that in 1970s or 80s there was a group of scholars who believed that the ideas before the socialists, the classical economists, Ricardo, Adam Smith, they were very important and we need to bring those back. That is why these groups of people were started called neoliberal. Why neoliberal or neoclassic? Because they revived the thinking, the understanding and the model of the classical capitalist thinkers, and they thoroughly critique socialists. So you understand why it is called neoliberal. Neoliberal is liberalism in a new avatar. You understand? So you have to keep in mind this classical economist, socialist and Marxist, and then again classical economists was supported by a new group of people. They were called neoliberal because they are again reviving those thinking. Okay, so these neoliberal thinkers, they once again started reiterating the point of the earlier classical thinkers who said that state is very bad. So you see the link between what Adam Smith is saying and how these people are arguing. See what happens, that the major thinkers resurrect. I am telling you, thinkers are never dead. So basically what is happening, that in 1970s or 80s or 90s, thinkers who were critical of socialist model, they again went back to the earlier thinkers of the classical era, Adam Smith and other people, and they brought back their ideas in a new form. Some modification they will do because time is different now. So they cannot say the same thing what Adam Smith has said, but basically they got influenced by those earlier thinkers and they argued in a new fashion. So that is why they are called neoliberal. If somebody would ask that why they are called neoliberal, they are called neoliberal because they critiqued socialist economy, they critiqued Marxist economy, and they have said that it has led to serfdom, it has led to stagnation, it has not addressed poverty. So instead of this Marxist and socialist model, they went back to the earlier era of Adam Smith and classical economists, and they got influenced by their writings, and it is their writings and their thought which is being articulated in a slightly modified way. That is why they are called neoliberal. So you see, Adam Smith is talking about market, free market, trade, specialization, and this neoliberal are also talking about privatization. What is this privatization? You understand? Privatization in Hindi is called Nijikaran. What is it called? Nijikaran. Privatization means, you have to keep in mind again, public sectors. So in socialist model, resources are nationalized. What do you mean by nationalization of economy?
Which can be shared
By everybody. It's not the private property. Suppose this is a computer, it doesn't belong to me. Anybody can come and use it. Okay, so it is common property. So basically the socialist model is one that supports nationalization. When Indira Gandhi was in power in 1970s, she nationalized banks. Okay, so the bank is not the private property of any individual. Okay, it is the property of Bharat Sarkar, people of India. And railway is property of our Indian army is nationalized. Okay, Indian army is owned by Bharat Sarkar. It is owned by people. It is not the private property of anybody. So basically when Nehru came to power, he believed that if country is to made developed, then public sectors must play major role. He believed that private sectors will not be able to lift India out of poverty. So electricity, coal, heavy industry, railway, cement, every major sectors were owned by public sector, were run by government. So those companies were known as public sectors. HMT, Hindustan Machinery Tools. HMT की घड़ी आती थी ना. So your आपको नहीं पता, your papa, your dadaji, they were once upon a time, they were engineer here and there. They were working in public sectors. Okay. So what has happened, that the governance model basically is saying that public sector is not yielding result. It is technology में ये बहुत पीछे हो गया है ना. We are not competing with the advanced countries. Suppose we are making car. Have you seen Hindi movies? Let's say 90s, 60s and 70s. You will see only one or two kinds of car. But now and then you come back to Dilwale Dulhaniya Le Jayenge. You see many kinds of car. So if you see film, maybe Amitabh Bachchan ka film or Devanand ka film, you will find dabba wala car. Okay. So basically the argument was that public sectors are not yielding much result. It has become stagnant, and if public sector is making this car is not world class. Okay. You look at car which is being made by, let's say, German companies or maybe Japanese company. So we are not able to compete. So the problem lies with the way public sector is being run, and it is also argued that public sector is making losses. So what is the way out? The way out is, let's privatize it. Let's give it to those who can run it in a better way. For themselves or for anybody. Okay. So basically the governance model believed that let's do privatization. For example, you might have heard the news, railway का ये चीज privatize हो गया, ये हो गया. For example, if you travel in Rajdhani, ठीक है, Rajdhani, all of you have traveled in Rajdhani, the person who brings to you food, ठीक है ना. So have you seen in the morning that person will come and will ask some gift or some tip from you. Okay. So similarly, I was coming from, let's say, Howrah, Rajdhani, coming to Delhi. So maybe when we were reaching, let's say, Delhi or Ghaziabad or Aligarh, that person came. So I asked, ki, how much do you get? Okay. What is your salary? So he said, I don't get any salary. Okay. Maybe 600 something or 700 something rupees I get per day. When I work, I will be paid. So what is happening, that in rail, those who are safai karamchari, those who are serving you food, okay, they are not the employees of railway. Had they been employees of railway, they would have got salary. So they don't get any salary. They are hired by some agencies, okay, some private agencies. Even safai wala is hired by the private agency. So what is happening, that railway is basically owned by Bharat Sarkar, but the services of the railways are gradually privatized. So is it good or is it bad? The governance model will say it's good, because now it is more efficient. But if you look at from the point of view of the worker who is working there, it is not good. So basically the governance model says that do privatization. You understand? Privatization is good, because those people who are good at running the industry in a better way, they should be given chance to run it, instead of government taking so many load, and it is not being able to run it properly. But the critics of privatization model will say that government is handing over the public sector to those who are favoring the government somehow. So the governance model is for privatization. The governance model is also for liberalization. What is this liberalization? Liberalization in Hindi is called Udarikaran. What is called? Udarikaran. And why I am telling you? Because you read Hindi newspaper sometime also, maybe our leaders' speech are also there. So you should know it. Udarikaran. So the term Udarikaran or liberalization has a different connotation in economics also. Again, go back to socialist model, Nehruvian model. Before 1980s or maybe before 1990s, our economy, Indian economy, was trying to create vibrant national economy, okay, it was for self-dependency, okay, and it tried to resist the coming of the foreign goods to Indian market. I am not saying that foreign goods were never allowed to enter the Indian market, but the policy was that let's grow our own industry, let's produce domestically, let's produce within the boundary of the nation state and import less, very less. So you have seen film, I will again give you the example. Netaji's car, you see, that politician's car, you will see that white ambassador. Okay. So every politician, MP, MLA, chief minister, if that scene is being enacted, the leader, the politician will also come in white ambassador. So India was producing white, Indian companies were producing white ambassador, and foreign car companies were not encouraged to come. You can buy it still in those days, okay, but too much tariff was put. For example, this is bottle, it is very nice and it is being, let's say, sold in, let's say, Japan. She has gone to Japan and she has bought it there because Indian bottles she doesn't like. But when she has purchased it, then when she reaches the airport, the government will say that, okay, you have to, how much is this bottle? So she will say 500 rupees. Okay, give 5,000 rupees as tax, something like that. So too much tax was put. Why it was put? To discourage. Okay, because it was feared that foreign goods, if they were allowed to enter Indian market, then local market will not grow, local producers will not be in advantageous position. And why it is so? Always remember, history plays important role. The East India Company came to India as a traders, as a businessman. Slowly they penetrated Indian market. They used the conditions, the volatile political conditions of India, and slowly they became the ruler. Mahatma Gandhi and other people fought and India got independence. And the national leaders realized that India became gulam only because we allowed others to come, okay, and do trade here, and our economy was being controlled by them. And there is a great nationalist leader, Dadabhai Nauroji and other people, who gave the theory which is known as drain of wealth. What is drain of wealth? You Google it and get to know. The simple term is that economically we are being exploited. The foreign goods were being pushed into the Indian markets, and Indian traders, merchants, artisans, they all declined and died slowly. So that nationalist thinking was there when India got independence, that let's create our own socialist, our own independent economy where public sectors are there, okay. Don't buy things from the outside. But by 1990s, the governance model, World Bank, World Trade Organization and other bodies, they become very critical of this model. And they said, open up the economy. If you open up, it is not creating always disadvantage. If economy is open, it will also bring good things to India. Go back to classical economics thinker Adam Smith, who said, free trade is always good. So basically it was based on this idea that free trade is always good. So the liberalization means that all the restriction which you have put for the foreign goods to enter your market, you remove them. And when you remove them, the other countries will also remove tariff in their own country. So your goods also enter. So the free trade will be encouraged and wealth and prosperity will be achieved. I was planning to teach today Jagdish Bhagwati. This is his book, In Defense of Globalization. I have given you a chapter which is on environment. Okay, we will be studying only environment chapter because you can't read each and everything what he has said. So the Jagdish Bhagwati is a supporter of globalization. He is a supporter of free trade. He is a supporter of privatization. He is a supporter of liberalization. He is a supporter of governance model. So he is basically saying free trade अच्छा है, डरो मत. Free trade से wealth prosperity होगी. And what is globalization? Integration of national economy with international economy. That means that you do more trade, you open up the economy, there is a movement of people and the goods and the capital and technology from one region to another region. So more trades means more prosperity. So the governance model is basically in favor of liberalization, open up the economy. So after 1990s, you would see that slowly foreign companies have started coming to India, and if you go to Gurgaon, Noida, maybe some parts of Faridabad also, all the major companies, big global companies, they have shifted their base, particularly its service sector, to this region. Why? Because here labor is cheap. Suppose a Smarth has become engineer, computer engineer. So he can work here in 60,000 rupees per month. But the same person who is skilled BTech in USA may be asking, let's say in Indian currency, 2 lakh rupees. So the company thinks that why not shift the location to India, because we get cheap labor. So the basically Indian economy is having some advantage because we have got large population. Because of the large population, people are here to work at the lesser price, okay, at low wages, and that is why the companies are coming here. And these companies are creating some wealth also, some prosperity also. Last night I have seen one Instagram video, and it says, if you have not visited America, don't worry, come to Knowledge Park in Hyderabad, you will see America. So basically the governance model will say that since India opened up the economy, foreign companies came, there was a transfer of technology also. So we are not in a disadvantageous position. We have gained it. So the basically governance model says open up the economy. Okay, open up the, don't enclose it. Don't try to look inward. So governance model is for liberalization. Now what is the socialist model earlier? Nationalist economy, close the door or put tariff at the door so that goods should not enter, and then they were being influenced by the nationalist thinking, economic nationalism, that अंग्रेज आए और हमें लूट के चले गए. So you have to keep in mind that if some policies are being made, there are some histories also. The next thing is that it is not a state centric. I have already said that that governance model is not a state centric. That doesn't mean that a state has withered away or a state has disappeared. A state is important, very important, but it is not the sole authority. But the next point, a state remains an actor, okay, along with market and NGO. The next is strengthening the role of the finance capital, okay. So in governance model, in globalization, the role of finance capital has become very powerful. For example, it is being borrowed by some big companies or maybe some agencies, and then we have to pay later. You understand? So those who have got money, they are financing the development work outside, and in return they are making profits also. So the earlier, what was the model? The earlier the model was that government will create its own resources, okay, and work for the development model. But here what is happening, that government is borrowing money from the other agency, from the World Bank and so many other agencies also. And when you get money from them, they also put some condition also. It is not free. Suppose you want to build, let's say, metro in your city. So you go to, let's say, some big agencies in foreign countries, and you say, sir, I want to do these things. So they will give you money, but they will also say, make policies like this. So the money which you are borrowing from the agencies, they are also giving you some conditions also. It's not free. They will say, okay, you take money, but now your economic policies should be like this. You have to privatize, you have to liberalize, you have to go for governance, not for government. A state will remain important actor, but you have to also include markets and NGOs also. There should be more role for the private players also. Encourage investment, encourage capitalist development. They will also say like this. So these are all being linked. Rising role of corporation and NGOs. The same thing, the market, the corporate players. I have said in the previous class that now government cannot make policies bypassing the interest of corporate players. Have you seen the farms bill? You know what is farms bill? Farms laws.
Yes.
Farmers were protesting in Delhi, in Ghaziabad and some other places, and they were saying that 3 farms laws which were enacted by the government, they are against the farmers, because they fear that minimum support price will not be given by the government. You know what is minimum support price? Minimum support price, to put it very simply, suppose if you are a farmer and you have grown, let's say, rice or maybe wheat, the government fixes the rate. Okay, so 2000 rupees per quintal, let's say wheat, okay, or maybe 2200 rupees per quintal, and government buys those wheat from the farmers. So the rate is fixed. It is called minimum support price. But what happens that in market the price is not fixed. So there were some economists who argue that such a policy is not good. Okay, we do not need so many grains. Why can't we allow market to buy it? Why government should buy it? We are not able to procure or keep or preserve those grains. There are so many other things. So these 3 farm laws were made. Okay, so the farmers read these farm laws as if that government are not going to buy it. So that is why they become very worried. These farm laws were not put government in a position to buy it. It may not buy it. So they started protesting. So those who were critical of the farm laws, okay, opposition parties, they criticized that government made those farm laws to please some big corporate players. No longer a state is the sole authority. And in governance model, efficiency, you understand efficiency, transparency, मतलब corruptions नहीं होना चाहिए, no corruptions, free and fair. Then they were given importance. Corruption, that control of the corruption, this is also important. Anna Hazare movement, you understand now?
Yes, sir.
India against corruption. So you understand how the policies which are being made, they have their manifestation in the ground also. And in Anna Hazare movement, you also remember that there was also the demand for the Lokpal also. So what the Lokpal will do, Lokpal will keep track of everything. So basically, so in the Anna Hazare movement, Lokpal was also the Lokpal hona chahiye. So Lokpal, what the Lokpal will do, Lokpal will keep track of what is happening also. It will bring about the report, or maybe if there is any corruption, you can go and make a complaint. So the governance model also talks about control corruption, have transparency, have efficiency. Have you heard the name right to information? RTI. This is also part of governance model. What is this RTI? जानने का अधिकार. I have a right to know. So for example, you can write, you can send an RTI to any public institution and you can seek information. So right to know, information. What are these? These are all ways to curb corruption. So the control of corruption and reforms of the civil services also. See, civil services is also very important. You have to keep in mind. When Britishers came, India was such a vast country. So they ruled over us with the help of bureaucrats. okay, civil servants, and they were very powerful people, very powerful people. So basically the civil servants were very, very powerful, and every parent dreams that my son becomes civil servant. In Bihar, if you become civil servant, you will get everything. Everybody, मेरा बेटा civil servant बनेगा, civil servant बनेगा. This is so much there in the psyche of the people. Okay, collector बन जाए, collector. Okay ना? So basically in Nehruvian regime, the civil servants were very powerful. All the development works, they decide, they plan, they release the funds. But after 1990s, what has happened? That governance model has said that we cannot do away with civil servants, but their roles should be redefined. The civil servants, instead of doing everything on its own, should try to encourage, to try to facilitate private players, the corporate players to achieve development. So civil servants, instead of becoming the sole actor, is basically working as a facilitator. समझ रहे? So the role of the civil servants is also redefined, and rising role of the private sectors. If there is a rising role of the private sector, which sector is going down? Public sectors. Okay, so the role of the public sector is less in governance model, and the role of the private sectors are more. And then devaluation of the power, decentralization. Power should not be concentrated. Okay, so you have seen Panchayati Raj system, municipal elections, local bodies elections. Okay, in Bihar you will be surprised to know that reservation is given to women in the local bodies elections. This is also a great thing. At assemblies and parliament, women reservation is still not implemented. But in, what should I say, in Bihar's local body elections, there is a reservation for women also. So I think 50% reservation is there. So the point is that decentralization is also stressed by the governance model. So if somebody asks you what is governance model, what is governance, so you will be able to say in 2-3 minutes that governance model has become very popular in 1980s. It is linked with the movement for globalization, for privatization, for liberalization. It is the idea which is being promoted by the World Bank, and globalization, privatization, rising role of the corporate players, market, and declining role of a state is linked with governance model. Governance is not saying, this model is not saying that a state is not important, but the importance of the state is now less, and more importance is given to market and civil society, people's participation, decentralization, efficiency, and also reforms in the civil servants. So this is how your course is designed, that we have to look at natural resources from this point of view. So you would ask, I would ask you one thing, that how will you look at natural resources? You will look at natural resources as an intellectual, as a civil society member, as an activist, and you will see how natural resources can be best managed, where growth can also happen, where development can also happen. At the same time, environment is not destroyed. In the next class, we will be studying Jagdish Bhagwati's paper on environment. There are two arguments. Some people argue that growth and development will destroy environment. Another person would argue no. Jagdish Bhagwati is arguing that there can be a balance between growth and development and market and environment also. So in the next class we will be talking about Jagdish Bhagwati.